You've said then, in terms of the characteristics of the creator of the universe, that they need to be all-powerful, all-knowing, all-willing. You also said...
he must be dissimilar to his creation.
Dissimilar to the creation. No.
The golden principle in Aqidah from the Quran al-Karim, لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ, that nothing is like him in any way.
Alrighty, so the claim is that the universe had a single creator.
The creator of the universe.
And that this creator's characteristics include omnipotence.
They need to be all-powerful.
Omniscience.
All-knowing.
All-willingness, whatever that means.
All-willing.
And dissimilarity to his creation in every way.
لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ, that nothing is like him in any way.
Well, in that case, this creator, this God, doesn't exist, since if he did exist, then he'd have a similarity with us, wouldn't he?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another episode of Destroying Doubts, where we address your questions about Islam.
Why hello, my fellow apes. I hope you are well. This is my third response to Sheikh Haroon Kanja's appearance on One Path Network, and this time we're going to focus primarily on the Sheikh's alleged knockdown arguments against Christianity. And yes, I know, it's a little bit strange for an atheist to be effectively defending Christianity, but truth has always been my aim, and if Muslims are illogically and inconsistently dismissing Christianity, then I'll do what I can to point it out.
So Sheikh, perfect then, you're talking about God being dissimilar to the creation. So when we looked on Google just before this, and at the autocompletes, some of the top things that people were asking about God was, does God have a partner, like a son or a wife? And then another thing was, when you look at is God, people were saying, is God a man, as an example, or is God a human? Or is God a female even, was being asked. What's, in light of what we were just talking about, what's the Islamic understanding of these?
The host's question is chiefly aimed at Christianity, since Islam rejects kinship between God and any other being, whereas Christianity claims Jesus to be the Son of God, no less. For instance, Luke 1:35 declares, "The angel answered, the Holy Spirit will come upon you, and the power of the Most High will overshadow you, so the Holy One to be born will be called the Son of God." The question of whether God has a wife is intriguing, but it would take a bit of time to unpack, and so I'll do so later. But the primary aim here is certainly Christianity. The host wants to know how Muslims can be certain that Christianity is false. It's a good question, and, well, an incredibly important question, because despite Christians and Muslims maintaining many of the same propositions, if they get this one question wrong, then, well...
he's doomed.
Yeah, eternal consequences are in the balance.
Well, from a textual point of view, it's very clear to us, even our children, that are 5-6 years old. One of the first surah that they memorize is Surah Al-Ikhlas. قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ اللَّهُ الصَّمَدُ لَمْ يَلِدْ وَلَمْ يُولَدْ وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. This brief surah really encompasses everything that you need to know regarding Allah. That He is Allah, the one and only. Allahu Samad. He is self-sufficient and everything depends upon Him. لَمْ يَلِدْ وَلَمْ يُولَدْ. He has no beginning, no end. He wasn't begotten, nor does he beget. He's not the son of anyone, and he is not the father of anyone. وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. And there is no one that can be compared to him in any way, shape, or possibility. There's no possibility of that.
No.
Okay, so again, according to the Sheikh, Allah doesn't exist, since if he did exist, he'd have a similarity with us, wouldn't he?
Nothing is like him in any way.
But putting this aside, what we're witnessing here is a dismissal of Christianity through presupposition of Islam, which is effectively begging the question. The Sheikh is appealing to the Quran to prove that the Quran's teachings are accurate. Rephrased, when asked, how can we know the Quranic view of God is accurate, he's answered, because it says so in the Quran. This is circular reasoning. To be fair, however, the Sheikh seems somewhat aware of his question begging, since he opened by saying,
well, from a textual point of view,
and, more importantly, after delivering the textual response, he gives us an alleged rational one. So let's hear it.
If you look at it from a rational point of view, same thing. Saying that he is a God, he is dissimilar to his creation. His creation, they have, offspring and things like that. Why would he need that? Why would he be able to do that? that would entail that he be like them in a way. He has to have these, inner desires that we have for, the opposite sex. We desire to have children. Allah is not like us. God is not like us. So for us to say that he has a son, or has a wife, or has, a partner, whatever it may be, that's irrational also, because he's dissimilar to his creation.
Well, despite the Sheikh claiming that the doctrine of dissimilarity can be defended on rational ground, he hasn't offered an argument here, let alone a compelling one. Rather, he simply presumed his conclusion of God being dissimilar to his creation by defining a God as being dissimilar to his creation.
Saying that he is a God, he is dissimilar to his creation.
This, again, is begging the question. Rephrased, when asked, how can we know that God is dissimilar to his creation, Kanj has answered, because he's dissimilar to his creation. Two additional claims made by the Sheikh in the previous paragraph and in the form of questions were 1. Why would God need kinship?
Why would he need that?
And 2. Why would God be able to have children?
Why would he be able to do that?
In response to the second question, it might be argued that a God that can have children is greater than a God who can't, and that omnipotence would hence necessitate the latter. What's more, consider the fact that some humans are infertile. Well, if God can't have children, then he shares a similarity with some of his creation, and if he can have children, then he also shares a similarity with some of his creation.
Nothing is like him in any way.
And in response to the first question of why God would need any kinship,
why would he need that?
I'm actually with the Sheikh on this one. I agree with him. The idea of an omnipotent God wanting or needing children doesn't strike me as logically coherent. But by the same token, the idea of an omnipotent God needing or wanting anything at all doesn't strike me as logically coherent, be it worship from his creation or the need, want or desire for his creation to achieve salvation. I mean, how pathetic would it be to need worship? We tend to look down on narcissists, and yet when God does it, and in unprecedented proportion, it's somehow a good thing. And surely a God that's emotionally invested in the flawed actions of lesser beings is weaker than one that isn't emotionally invested. I'm tempted to expand upon this concern in detail, but since Kanj merely treaded lightly on this territory, I'll do the same. Let's continue.
Because he's dissimilar to his creation.
He's dissimilar, and then the other point being that, and I think you mentioned it anyway, is that because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala transcends the creation, right? So there's a concept within Islam, hulul, where Allah does not dwell within the creation.
That's right.
He does not exist within his creation. So in saying that, could we say that because God is outside of time, space, dependencies and all these things, then therefore him having a wife would indicate he has a need of some sort?
Yeah, a need of some sort. Then you have, multiple questions that arise from that. Who came first? Did God come first? Did his wife come first? Who came first? Did God come first? His child come? It's a lot of irrational questions will come to mind.
No.
And we've already mentioned that God, for him to be a God, he has to have no beginning.
Yes. Seeing
that he has no beginning, anything that comes into existence afterwards is his creation.
Yes.
You get me?
You know what? No, I don't get you, Kanj. I am in fact in awe of how many fallacies and mistakes you and the host have just made in such a short period. To begin, the host seemingly got jealous at the Sheikh's question-begging collection fund and decided to grab one for himself.
There's a concept within Islam, hulul, where Allah does not dwell within the creation.
That's right.
He does not exist within his creation.
But look, if the conclusion of an argument entails that Jesus was not the incarnation of God, and you have as a premise a doctrine which states
Allah does not dwell within the creation,
then you're effectively begging the question, since to say that God does not dwell within his creation is to say, among other things, that Jesus was not the incarnation of God. But most importantly, note that we didn't receive a rational argument as to why such a doctrine is plausible. We receive nothing but an assertion, and that which is asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence. From here, the Sheikh and the host reasoned that since God does not dwell within his creation, it follows that God does not have a son or wife, because this would imply that God has some sort of need.
Because God is outside of time, space, dependencies and all these things, then therefore him having a wife would indicate he has a need of some sort.
Yeah, a need of some sort.
But this is just a non sequitur. It doesn't follow from the doctrine of Allah not dwelling within his creation that him having a wife indicates that he has a need. No, God having any relationships or goals is what indicates that he has a need, and yes, this includes his need, his goal, of having Gabriel commune with Muhammad. Indeed, as already expressed, I'd maintain that this blade swings both ways, severing Islam just as much as Christianity. An omnipotent being needing anything at all strikes me as firmly within the realm of contradiction. Now, playing something of a Switch card, and that's me plugging Debunked, which is available at all fine stores, and by that I mean, well, just Shopify, the Sheikh then got jealous at the host's non sequitur and gave us one of his own.
Seeing that he has no beginning, anything that comes into existence afterwards is his creation.
No, this doesn't follow. It could be the case that God and the universe had no beginning, and then God created, if at all, by rearranging already existing material. And finally, let's talk about God's wife, Asherah. While it would be too much of a distraction to spend significant time on God's wife here, here's a light touch.
Executed in clear 8th century script. It's the tomb inscription. And it just gives the name of the deceased, and it says, "Blessed may X be by Yahweh." That's good biblical Hebrew. But it says by Yahweh and his Asherah. And Asherah is the name of the old Canaanite mother goddess.
Plenty of amulets, inscriptions, and figurines associating Yahweh with Asherah have been discovered, culminating in such a compelling case that some biblical scholars, such as Dr. Francesca Stavakapoulou, has expressed the following. You might know him as Yahweh, Allah, or God. But on this fact, Jews, Muslims, and Christians, the people of the great Abrahamic religions, are agreed. There is only one of him. He is a solitary figure, a single universal creator, not one God among many. Or so we like to believe. After years of research specializing in the history and religion of Israel, however, I have come to a colourful and what could seem, to some, uncomfortable conclusion that God had a wife. Anyhow, with that, I'm gonna wrap up. Next month, I have some huge projects set to publish, including the second episode of the series on the Kalam that me and Joe Schmid have collaborated to create. From material. We didn't create it from nothing, right? It wasn't creatio ex nihilo, it's creatio ex materia. As always, thank you kindly for the view, and an extra special thank you to my wonderful patrons and YouTube members. A fresh load of Tankard of Truths are set to be sent out within a week, but until then, thank you very, very much for your patience.